Hey, you're listening to Smoke Meat. I'm your host, Brad Pittman. Smoke Meat's brought to you by Joe's Underground at the corner of 8th and Broad in Augusta, Georgia, in the bottom of the Lamar Building. Jeremy and the gang go out of their way to make you feel at home from the first time you walk in there. Such a great place. I love going in there because I always am with family when I'm there. That's Joe's Underground, the corner of 8th and Broad in Augusta, Georgia, in the bottom of the Lamar Building. I goes to Joe's and so should you. Now, Smoke Meat people, you know I've got some musical heroes, and I'll tell you that the guy I'm interviewing today is one of them. He has been drumming forever. He has drummed on some of the greatest songs ever, from Jack and Diane to Blaze of Glory to you name it. He has been there. Such an icon in the music world, still going strong today, rocking harder than anybody I know. We're going to get to this thing with the great, legendary Kenny Aronoff. Let's kick this beast off here on Smoke Meat. Hey, how you doing today, Kenny?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you?
Man, if I was any better, I would be twins. Oh, yeah.
I am a twin.
Nice. I don't think the world could take two of me.
Well, that's what they said when we were kids, pretty much, except that we were very, very hyper, but we were very nice kids. We were happy kids.
Hey, that's the important part, and I love it when people raise happy kids because, it is what it is. It means you're taking care of them, you're loving them, and everything's going good.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, I was just emailing somebody that last night saying, you just never know what you're going to get. I mean, parenting is a tough, tricky thing. You have two parents, and they got the right intentions, and you give birth to a child, and you don't. There's no guarantees what you're going to get,
Yeah.
and that's the challenge in life, and that's the way we learn and grow because you learn from that experience of raising that child.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, I got two girls, and one's 19 and one's 17, and yeah, that's definitely a challenge.
Oh my God, you're in the thick of it still.
Oh man.
You're in the thick of it. I mean, oh man, my
Yeah.
son's now 36, and he was, everyone's going to get into do some wildness. You just hope they survive it. Make the right decisions. I remember as a kid, I was doing just typical what you do in high school, and I was a jock and a rocker. I had rock and roll bands, and I was like a hippie jock. So I was hanging with both groups, and we'd have parties every weekend. Everyone was sneaking around drinking, and back then it was just pretty much pot and drinking. But the thing is, every year there'd be a couple kids that would, die, and it's just I look back at it and, there were choices to be made, and I knew instinctively when to stop and pull away, go home, or, someone's driving too fast. I grew up in the Northeast, they got a GTO with a hearse in it and decided to, they're invincible, hit a patch of ice, hit a tree, a couple people die in the car accidents. I just knew when to pull away, get out of there.
Yeah.
And I think that helped.
Yeah, we lost about a dozen out of my graduating class, and my class was only 200 and something people.
Oh, man.
Our senior year, we were scared to walk out the door.
Wow. I mean, I had about the same. I had like almost just under 300 in my graduating class. Uh, yeah, it sounds like yours was a little bit more intense. Our big thing was typical, drinking and driving or somebody, just some crazy stuff. But then the other thing on our back was the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And we'd see the older kids that, graduated when I was at ninth grade, and some senior graduates and goes over to Nam and comes back a vegetable, or, you look at them and they've got that's not the same person. So we always had that, but still, your situation was without the Vietnam War, and you were tricky stuff, man. It's my mom's is 94, and that's a miracle. I mean, she just survived everything,
Yeah. Yes, hell, everything going on today is not new to her at all.
No, it's not new. But on the other hand, a lot of people her age that experienced, I mean, when I was a kid, it was like, both the Kennedys got shot, Martin Luther King got shot. It was crazy, the race thing. But the people are saying today this is a whole nother level, and probably because it's global. It's got the internet, we got social media. You know what's going on. Information gets spread around faster. But that's what they say. I don't know. I mean, when I was a little kid during those times, I remember it was scary, but it wasn't. It didn't seem like this, especially because we didn't have the COVID-19.
Yeah.
There was no like shutdown. You weren't told, hey, guess what? You're doing school from home now. There was none of that. That's like wow. Or, oh my God, you can't practice with your band. Like I mean, all my tours. I was supposed to go out 21 weeks with Joe Satriani, John Fogerty, another, 10 weeks, and then some Billy Gibbons. And I'm a speaker, so I give speeches uh, for corporations. I have an agent, and they had to postpone a whole bunch of those ones. So everything kind of shut down. That I never experienced that as a kid.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we thought quarantine as a kid, that was, the government put you, in a room surrounded by soldiers because you were going to kill everybody in the world. Now all of a sudden, everybody's got it.
Yeah, right,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah, the word quarantine was what you'd hear that maybe once every 3 years, you
yeah.
know, maybe. And now it's like it's a daily thing. Well, but I'm doing great in the I'm the type of guy I'm a working hard Navy SEAL kind of guy. As soon as this thing hit, I go to my studio every day. It started out I was practicing and running the Joe Satriani tour because we didn't know what was going to happen, and then it got into me doing 3, 5 podcast interviews a week. Since then, and then doing a lot of recording. I call it virtual recording. I have a
Mhm.
studio where I am right now called Uncommon Studios LA. People send me files from all over the world, and it's been just awesome. But I was doing that anyway, but now it's escalated, which is great. And and then I've now also turned my studio into a virtual speaking studio. In other words, the drums are where they are, but I got a little area where I speak, and I'm got 3 cameras, and and I've learned how to get the sound from my mixing board and all that fancy gear that my engineer has.
Mhm.
Runs and run it into another board and analog to digital converters, and it's in Zoom. So my
Mhm.
drum sounds in Zoom. Music I play along with goes into Zoom, and I have cameras that go into Zoom. So if I can do a virtual speech for an organization from my studio. So I've just adapted and adjusted to stay relevant, and I've always done that.
Yeah. I actually interviewed your studio neighbor the other day. Yep.
Who
Fabrizio.
did you? What you did? Oh my God!
Yeah. He
Yeah,
was awesome.
he was right next door to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's right. Yeah, right there. Did he tell you that I make a lot of noise?
He said it's good noise, though.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. But
yeah,
yeah.
man. He probably sits there and listens to me and writes down my beats and says, "Oh, I'm going to use that beat on our next record." Yeah.
But yeah, he was a lot of fun to do, and just such a great guy. And I've, I'm loving it. I'm getting to interview a lot of rockers here lately, and
Oh,
I'm
cool.
loving that because I'm a child of the '80s. Late in the '70s and '80s, and that was when
Yeah.
music was great.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of melodies. Back then, everybody had to have a hook line. Everybody had to have a chorus. Everybody had to have a bridge. Everybody had to play their instruments really, really well. You were competing with Tom Petty, you were the Police, Zeppelin, Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson. Whoever was. Elton John, Santana, Rod Stewart. Um, I'm missing, Nirvana, and then, well, later on it was Nirvana and all the grunge things. But you had to have parts, you had to have ideas. It wasn't just this drum loop and people just rapping on top of it. I mean, there was a lot of elements. pressure was on everybody's instrument.
Yeah, and not saying people today don't have talent because everybody's got some talent.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
back then, there wasn't all the processing and all the digital stuff where, hell, when I sing in the shower, the water quits running. But if I use this board right and use my software right, I can sound like Pavarotti. And
Well, well, and to add to that, yeah, you can edit anything now. You
yeah,
can edit any, somebody sings wrong, they got Melodyne, which will bend the notes into place, and yeah, you don't. There's a lot of aid and support, and what happens though, that changes your performance and your attitude. For example, when I record with the idea that you can't fix anything. Complete takes. Yesterday, I just did a song for a country artist out of Austin, Texas, and I did 3 takes, no punching, from top to bottom. They took the first take. I write every note out before I even record, which because I've got a huge academic training in classical music. Write every single note. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Talk to the producer, discuss it with the bass player. First take, done. Second take, another take, third take, and I keep. But there were no fixes, not one fix. Everything feel, parts, sound, everything. And that was the old school. You had to be able to do that. But my point is, when you play from top to bottom, you get this a different vibe. You can feel I'm really bearing down. My attitude is like, I got to do this now. It's like immediate. It's like do or die kind of thing.
yeah,
And that makes the take I do sound different than if somebody's just relying on a couple of band-aids and some stitches.
yeah. And, I heard somebody put it really well. They said, when you record like you're recording on your last roll of 2-inch tape.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that goes along with, for those that don't know, there used to be this stuff called tape that was expensive to buy, and
Yeah,
that's what it was recorded on.
yeah, and I will add to that on one roll of 2-inch tape, which is around 700 to 750 a roll, you could only get 3 takes.
Yeah,
So there were times where when you were going to decide which drum take, because you built everything off of the drums, let's say you did, I mean, like John Fogerty. Oh my God, we'd record 2 songs for a whole week. He had so many rolls, and he'd go and listen to all of them. He'd have his engineer transfer every take of the same simple song to, I guess it was a cassette or a CD or something. He'd record it, and he'd have, uh, let's see, if we do 3.5 hours of one song, 2 takes, listen, 2 takes, listen, 2 takes, listen. Heck, you could have, I don't know, 3 minute song. I mean, you could have as many as 15 takes of that song, and then you do another song, and then we do those same 2 songs all week. So 15 times 5, that's like 75 takes.
yeah,
He listened to 75 takes, and when I worked with him, we'd be done. But some artists, they wouldn't be done. They keep doing it again. And every song I did pretty much was redoing what somebody else had done.
yeah,
So man, when you're dealing with tape, it's more difficult. Where people listening, if you have Pro Tools, you don't have to change the reel. You have infinite amount of room on a digital platform like Pro Tools. You just can go do as many takes as you want, and it's all right there. You could literally just highlight, oh, what was take number 50 like? Bam, you're on it. What was the take number 20 like? Bam, you're on it. Just like that. That's the difference.
yeah. Can you imagine what it cost Brian Wilson to record Pet Sounds?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the techniques that he had to use, because the album, like the Pet Sounds and the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's, they reinvented recording techniques, just extraordinary amounts of experimenting and stuff that you don't do today, because they were just trying to maximize and push their gear, and ideas to the limit.
Yeah, and I tell you, they come out with such great stuff, and like I said, new techniques that kind of made it where people wanted to use those and wanted to see what they could do. and just
Yeah.
sparked a lot of creativity and a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. I
yeah,
mean, the Beatles. I mean, in a matter of 1 year and 11 months. Yeah, 1 year and 11 months. Under 2 years, they put out Rubber Soul, which was a huge diversion from anything they'd already done. And then the next album was Revolver, which was completely different than Rubber Soul.
mm,
Rubber Soul was more like they were getting influenced by Bob Dylan, and the folk singer songwriter became more intimate. That was mostly Paul McCartney's direction. But before that, it was more like pop. She loves you, yeah, yeah. More upbeat, poppy type stuff that took over the world.
yeah,
Then, Rubber Soul gets more introverted. Then Revolver, they started to experiment um, in the studio. And then by the next album was Sergeant Pepper's, and they basically took over the studio and had it 24 hours a day, and would experiment with weird instruments and miking techniques and all kinds of stuff. And then they did Magical Mystery Tour, which is really a diversion. If you look at the cover, they look like they've been smoking some pot or something,
yeah,
but they look like walruses. And anyway, the point is, every record was 48 songs on all four records. All of them got played on the radio, and they all sound different. The creativity and the experimenting that was going on in such a short period of time was just uncanny. It was unbelievable.
yeah. And that's one thing I hope and I see that's coming out of this quarantine stuff is creativity. Because
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
people are going batshit.
yeah, they are. They really are going back shit, and that's why I love coming to the studio every day. Every single day, it's a place of creativity for me, innovation. Um, as a matter of fact, I got so many ideas. I have to step back and think about what my priorities are, because in literally about 30 seconds, I could sign away, you know, I could say, I say, I want to do this, 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 and this. I said, well, that's going to take 10 years. You know what I mean? I mean, there are too many ideas. So
Yeah,
it is a great time to be creative, and people should take advantage of it.
yeah. Because I know I'm aching to get back on stage. I do comedy, and when had a gap before, it was because I just didn't feel like getting on stage, and now I
Yeah.
can't, and I'm just aching to. But I've been
Hey,
doing
what about,
videos on YouTube.
yeah, I guess, in your case, oh my God, you need the audience response.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah,
That's interesting because I can perform. I've done it so much that the audience isn't there. I still can make it feel and look like the audience is there. But comedy, oh my God, you're in such an intimate place, and you need the response. You need to see faces.
yeah,
I'm sure, right?
yeah. I got to feed off that energy, and if it's
Right.
not there, man, I recorded one 10-minute bit for a show that a friend of mine was doing,
Hmm.
and man, it was just the material was good, but my delivery was just dry because I didn't have anybody to do it with. I was in front of a screen.
Yeah, exactly. That's a whole different ball game.
Yeah,
Really, it really is, and that's it's got to be tough. I've noticed, without mentioning names, a lot of the major TV shows at night. The people, talk, shows, like Jimmy Kimmel or a Fallon. I've
yeah,
noticed it's just not the same without the audience. It just isn't.
yeah,
It doesn't look. I don't want to see them at home in their living room. I want to see them on stage, and I want the panning to the audience. I want to feel like that guy, and he probably does too, wants to feel like he's got to perform, because those people are right there. I mean, so to speak, they could throw tomatoes at him.
yeah,
But when you're at home, it's too casual. It's not the same. And some of the people during the day, those that do it during the day, the talk hosts, they're you can tell it's affecting them. It's just killing them.
yeah. When doing interviews, I love doing interviews, and I'm doing a lot of them over the phone and Zoom right now because I mean, obvious, but
Yep.
it's just really strange doing it like this instead of just sitting face to face and okay,
Yeah.
here's your mic, here's mine, let's talk.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and one thing
Yeah.
I've been doing, I've done some videos on YouTube that are character videos, and they are insane. And I've carried it a step further. I'm a chili head. I eat hot stuff all the time. The hotter the better. And
I don't know.
I made an Amazon list with like the food challenges, like the one chip challenge and those things.
Yeah.
And anybody that orders anything, they can pick which of my characters I do it with and what I'm doing. And a friend of mine just sent me the white chocolate challenge, which is ridiculous. It's just a piece of white chocolate, but it's got 12 of the hottest peppers in the world in it. And I've got a clown named Murray. Murray is he is the most jacked up clown in the world. In his first video, he drank a fifth of bourbon in 10 minutes while he was doing magic.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
Oh my
amazing.
God. A fifth of bourbon doing
Yeah,
magic.
which,
Oh my
which in
God.
the video it's tea because if I drank like Murray, I would die. I'm too old for that shit now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Oh, so it was tea, right? In the
yeah, it
video.
was tea.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
God.
but this is Murray's voice, and he
Yeah.
he is amazing. You can go to my channel, it's Brad's Comedy, all one word with no apostrophe on YouTube, and
Yeah.
check him out. But he's wanting Murray to read 50 Shades of Grey while he eats this thing, so that's going to be interesting.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
I can't. That's great, man. No, I am not the hot. I can only handle medium.
Yeah,
It gets too hot. Nope.
yeah. Well, there's an art to cooking really hot stuff, but not making it ridiculous and not hurting anybody and having flavor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's
Oh, I'm
it's
sure.
a fine line.
It's a fine. I mean, somebody once gave me something. I literally almost vomited. I might have. I mean, the reflex was, get this out of your system now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure you know.
Oh, definitely. Been
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Been there. But yeah, I know before we started recording, we talked some about your career drumming, and man, who I think the list of who you haven't beat the skins for is better than the list of the ones you have. Because holy crap.
Well, it's crazy, man. Yeah, that list is ridiculous. I don't know where to begin with it when people ask me. I mean, it's what's unusual is that usually you're fortunate if you make it in a band that has a name and you have hit singles like I did with John Mellencamp for 17 years, and but then I had created this huge recording um, business, and but then the next level is that my the people I play with are so diverse. That's even if you wanted to do that, it doesn't happen. I just got producers just knew I could get the job done. So I mean, the obvious people I played with were like John Mellencamp, Bob Seger. I played with the Elton Johns. The Rod Stewart. Uh, you know. But then I get into Alice Cooper. I toured with the Smashing Pumpkins. Tony Iommi from Sabbath. I did a record with Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. But then you get into Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings. Even I performed live with Loretta Lynn. I did a ton of stuff in Nashville, with Chet Atkins, with Patricia Ewer, Lee Greenwood. I mean, it goes on and on. George Jones. I mean, uh, and on and on and on. And then you get into the R&B, like B.B. King, Bonnie Raitt, Buddy Guy. I performed with Ray Charles twice. I performed with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. I have this huge, intensive classical background. I recorded with the Buddy Rich Big Band playing swing because I grew up playing jazz.
Mhm.
Then you got the girls, Michelle Branch, Avril Lavigne, Melissa Etheridge, Celine Dion, Alanis Morissette. Um, and it's so diverse. Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, Lionel Richie, Sting, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Bruce Springsteen. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's crazy, and that is because producers believed in that I could do anything, and I did shows like the Kennedy Center Honors for 7 years, where you had to be able to read music, you had to be able to play multiple styles of music, and kept getting those gigs,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, now with Alanis Morissette, oddly enough, I have been on an Alanis Morissette kick here in the last few days. Uh,
Wow.
did you play on Jagged Little Pill?
No, that
Oh
was a big
man.
one. No, I came in. I did I'm spacing it out. It had 8 easy steps. That was way past. I did 8 songs on a record of hers
Hmm.
in the 2000s. What was that called? I can't remember the record. I can't remember, but it was 8 songs. I recorded 13 songs in one day. Eight for her, two for Anastasia, one for Gwen Stefani, one for Goo Goo Dolls, uh, one for Melissa Etheridge. Somehow it came up to 13. Uh, some of those songs didn't make it, like the Goo Goo Dolls song, Gwen Stefani. Those songs didn't make it on those records, but they got used for something else.
Hmm.
But yeah, man,
Yeah.
yeah, it was great.
Well, I know we talked about you. You played on two of my favorite songs, especially with the drum parts. You know, Jack and Diane from John Cougar Mellencamp. I mean, that's a
Hmm.
classic, and you hit hard on that. That was
Hell
awesome.
yeah, I was fighting for my career.
Yeah.
I mean, I walked in the studio. That was the hardest record I ever made in my life. That was the first record I played drums on for Mellencamp, and he was about to lose his record deal, which I didn't know. I
Mm.
talk about it in my autobiography, "Sex, Drums, Rock and Roll: The Hardest Hitting Man in Showbiz," and I mentioned how John had fired two people. John had was in a really tough place in his career, but I didn't know that. I was just worried about getting on the record because the first record, when I first got in the band, I was basically fired from the record because I didn't have enough experience. The producer wanted somebody had more experience than me, and we only had 8 weeks to make the entire record. So anyway, I walk in one day and. The co-producer Don Gayman's got this drum machine. I said, "What is that?" He says, "The Lin One drum machine." I freak out, thinking, "What? Don't drum machines replace drummers?" And he was just mentioning the Bee Gees are using it next door. We were in Criteria Studios in Florida. Anyway, I said, "Well, what are you doing with it?" And then when he said, "We're going to use it on this song, Jack and Diane," I was devastated. I grabbed the machine and grabbed the manual. I said, "Well, I'm going to program it. You know what I mean? I want to be part of this."
Mm.
And so I programmed it, handed it back to him, and I was just in the lounge just thinking, what is going on with the drum world? And then they called me into the studio. John basically said, "Hey, dude, you got to come up with a drum part right here after the second chorus." Well, thank God we spent the whole day getting drum sounds because, uh, you see, back then drums were recorded in small rooms like vocal booths, so they could control the sound and the ring.
Yeah.
Well, John wanted to blow everybody away with this drum sound, so we put it in the big room, but people didn't know really. The engineers were experimenting where to put the room mics. Like you put close mics on drums, then you have overheads. But the room mics are the tricky part. You go about 12, 15 feet and the low end starts to expand. So if you have room mics that are low, you get a lot of low. If you go up higher, you get less low and you get more of the kit. But the point is the delay from where the drums are to that mic. So you had to figure out where exactly to put those so the blend between the close mics, overheads, and room mics were cool. So anyway, we do it. And we get the sounds, and I'm thinking whatever I come up with better be simple. It better serve this guy's music. It better be able to jump out of car stereos, TV sets, cause radios that people had carrying around, whatever. And and that's the part I came up with on the spot, but it was not easy. So I didn't create that part weeks in advance. It was right there, and who would have known that that song was going to be a number one hit and still played on the radio 38 years later?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just a great song. Like I say, I love that drum part because it just, like I say, it jumps out and it hits. It hits hard.
Well, that's the idea. That was it.
Yeah.
I basically um, got a touchdown. There was a plan. I executed it, and I reached the goal. And it blew John's career up and launched mine. Now, the first song on that record, American Fool, which won two Grammys, sold millions of copies, the first song was Hurt So Good. And that was real loud drums also. Everything
Yeah.
on John's records were loud drums. But it started off with drums. Do you remember that song?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the first time I heard that on the radio, I just pulled the car over in Indiana on the side of the road, man, and started like I didn't know what to do. I got up and started dancing, going, "Hey, man, that's me on the radio." And people in Bloomington, Indiana, who were huge Mellencamp fans, some people were hearing the same radio station. They were honking the horns, going, "Yeah, Kenny, good job." And then, now the weird thing about that song was that it got to number two, but we couldn't crack number one because Ebony and Ivory by McCartney and Michael Jackson and even more so, Eye of the Tiger
Mm-hmm.
um, was on the radio and keeping us out of number one. So for 4 weeks, we just stayed at number two. And people listening, when we back then, when you were, we're talking about top 100 singles. I mean, there's all kinds of stupid charts out there now that you could be number one. They only have you know they only sold 50 copies.
Yeah.
This was the basic format in radio back then was singles and album oriented charts. So if you were number one on the singles chart, you were on, you were you, it was obnoxious. You were on every radio station, you were on every TV show, and you were literally number one by a landslide. And then years later they created so many different types of charts. It'd be like too many, so you could be number one and it didn't mean anything. This meant something. So even if you were number two, it was huge. So they decided they better release Jack and Diane because Hurts for Good started to come down a little bit, three or four. And they released Jack and Diane. Jack and Diane goes flying up the charts. And all of a sudden, now we got two singles in the top 10, which is very difficult.
Yeah.
The Beatles, Creedence Clearwater do that. Michael Jackson did that. But now this new guy, Mellencamp, and Jack and Diane goes to number one. Hurts for Good stays up there, close to it, and we are like, who are these guys? And MTV embraced us as one of their poster boys, and we are bands, and we became huge, huge. It's great. It was
Yeah.
great to be part of it. I mean, I turned down an Elton John tour. I had recorded with Elton John four songs for a box set, and he asked for me, and I turned it down, which was a very difficult decision. I wasn't ready to leave the band that I felt like I was a part of. Uh, I made my choice. Sometimes I feel like I have regrets, but nevertheless, the hardest moment was when we're sold out at the Forum. That's about 18,000 seats, and it's just no opening act, just us. 3 hours Mellencamp, 360 degrees. We pulled the stage forward a little bit so people could watch us from behind.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernie Taupin, Elton John's songwriter or lyricist, comes to the show and goes, Kenny, I cannot believe you turned down Elton John. I got you the gig. I got you the gig. And as my head went down, I went, oh my God, I can't believe either. I'm having a hard time. But I said, but look at that audience. I pointed. We were like in the area where you walk out.
Yeah.
People are going nuts. And they were. Our audiences were rowdy, excited, they partying. I says, when I play these songs out there, I recorded almost every single one. And when I get to Jack and Diane, all 18,000 people, they air drum to what I did. And people, I can shoot my stick out to people, and people know. They know me by name because I am part of this band. I'm not just a side guy. And Bernie, why are you here? You're here to see Mellencamp, right? Well, I'm basically the Keith Richards in this band. It's just like I'm not just a sidekick. I recorded these songs. The brand was built around the image of me in the band. So it was a hard thing to leave.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
I'm glad you did, man. 'Cause like I say, you have thrown down, and another one that you've done. We talked about another one of my favorite drum parts, "Blaze of Glory."
Oh yeah. Well,
Um,
that man, when I was recording that, oh, this is a great story about that. John Bon Jovi calls me up out of the blues. Says, Kenny, John Bon Jovi. Now, how many times you get that call, right?
yeah.
I went, wow. John, what's up, man? He says, I want to record two songs. You available? Blah, blah, blah. I said, yes. He says, I'll call you a couple of weeks and we'll discuss it. Calls me back a couple of weeks. I'm in Nashville recording some records. And he goes, hey, I got four songs, man. I've gotten four songs now. It's for this movie, uh, Young Guns 2. So I go, all right, cool, man. Man, just tell me when. He'll call you a couple of weeks. Calls me back, goes, I've written 10 songs. The director loves this thing. I'm gonna actually make a record. It's gonna be also go with the movie. It just came. So I'll call you. Are you available to record? Blah 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 blah. I went, yeah. Calls me back a week later, goes, Kenny, I got good news and bad news. I said, what's the good news? Jeff Beck is playing on the record. I go, oh my God, my hero guitar player. So what's the bad news? Jeff Beck wants to use another drummer, Terry Bozzio, who's a master, amazing drummer. And what could I say? I went, I am bummed out, but I get it. So John and I hang up, and I'm kind of pacing the floor for like 4 hours. All of a sudden, I get a call from the co-producer, Danny Korchmar.
Mm-hmm.
Says, "Hey, Ken, what's up, man? It's Danny. Hey, tell your drum tech to get your drums set up and ready by Tuesday at 9 a.m." I went, "Danny, have you spoken to John lately?" He says, "Yeah, why?" I says, "Well, didn't he tell you I'm not playing drums?" He said, "Bullshit, you're playing drums." I said, "Nah, John said that that Jeff Beck wants Terry Bozzio." And this is the part I should have figured out. He says, "Terry Bozzio, I mean, Jeff Beck is not going to be tracking with us." What I see when you track, it was like 12-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
You do take after take after take. A guy like Jeff Beck doesn't do that. You have him come in later and say, "I want you to solo over these measures." He does two or three passes and leaves. See what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
there was no way that Jeff was going to be there when we were doing the tracking for the songs, and therefore they didn't need Terry. So Coach Mara said, "You're the right drummer for the gig. Be there. Tell your guys to get the shit there by 9." That was it. And I almost thought I didn't have a gig. And then when I was recording Blaze of Glory, I went, "This is a hit song.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hit song." I just knew it. It was so huge. It was such a journey, and that drum fill I came up on the spot. Doom doom da doom da 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 doom. It's I don't know how or
Mm-hmm.
why. It's just like Jack and Diane. I just try to be musical and come up with something that suits the song.
Yeah, and that was perfect for it. I mean, when I used to be a tactical medic, whenever I would suit up, I had certain songs that I would listen to kind of pump me
Yeah,
up a little bit. That one
yeah.
was one of them.
Oh man, that's great. Somebody interviewed me recently on Zoom and told me, "Give me four songs that you would play to motivate, not that you did, but you feel drum beats that motivate people."
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't come up with that one, but I know what you mean. There are songs that have like the obvious ones. "We Will Rock You," goose goose ga, goose goose ga, goose goose ga. So I always say that's your wake up in the morning and put that on. Just like before an NFL football game, they go goose goose ga. They get the audience going and they get both teams going
Yeah.
right until kickoff. You know, um, yeah. The other one would be, the Motown beat to get you as you're drinking your coffee, you're eating, you're about ready to go to work. It's kind of got that march beat to it.
Yeah.
And then the one where you're about ready to, like in your case, you're in the ambulance, you're heading, you're about to ready to do the performance. You're about to close the deal, put on Rock and Roll by Zeppelin. Get your blood going. It's like doing push-ups.
Oh yeah.
And then for me, the victory, and in your case, saving a life, you put Jack and Diane in. Boosh, gah, goosh, goosh, goo, do 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 do. So let it rock. It's a kind of a victory groove. But anyway, I mentioned that because that kind of like it's good to have songs and that have cool beats that will pump you up, give you give you the feeling that, or they support the feeling you're feeling. Yep.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I know my songs were like I say, I had "Blaze of Glory," I had "Ball with the Ball" from Kid Rock,
Oh yeah.
and "Sabotage" from the Beastie Boys. That one still makes me vibrate to this day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I like all those. Those are great songs. Absolutely. Yeah, when you guys are in the now you drive, you're in an ambulance or you in the fire trucks.
I'm in an ambulance.
Okay, so how many people are there in that ambulance usually?
It's me and my partner.
Yeah, sitting. You're driving. He's driving. You're one guy shotgun. So you get the call, and that is like I drove in a fire truck for a day and experienced multiple situations. Some was a fire. Some was where the ambulance like you guys would show up and there was somebody gunshot wound or a heart attack or an injury or whatever. I mean, you just don't. Boy, I mean, I was crapping in my pants thinking about what are we going to see when we get there. But you guys, it's like it's the same thing as being a soldier in the army. You do your job. You've got all these skills. You have a game plan, but you have to be able to think on your feet and adjust immediately at the moment when you're there. And it's about teamwork because you rely on your buddies to let you know what they see and you let them know what you see and share ideas to get the job done. I mean, it's whew,
Yeah,
exhilarating. I mean, I can't tell you how much I respect what you guys do, the firemen do, and what the police do. I mean, it's like, or for that matter, soldiers do. You've been trained to do a duty, you do your or a job, and you do your job. You know.
well, I appreciate it a bunch. You know, and what's funny is while we usually look really, really calm on the outside, inside, you may be shitting bricks because I look
Oh
at it
yeah.
this way. If I walk in, I'm the one that's supposed to be bringing peace to the chaos, and you're having a fit. You know, this may be the biggest thing that's ever happened to you. I may have seen this 20 times in the last 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
if I'm the guy that's supposed to bring peace and I walk in and nut up, the whole thing just goes to shit real quick.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. That's what people don't realize. It looks so easy when you're from a distance, but you're a human being too. You know.
Yeah. You know, I'm,
And
I'm the
people.
poster child for PTSD. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of responders have it, and it sucks. But I mean, you deal with it, and you get help with it, and it works. You know, me and my partner talk about everything. You know, he's family.
Well, you know, by the way, my doctor's a PTSD expert. I mean, it's a. If, I don't know if you've done this, but you do blood work and find out where your hormone levels are, and he corrects that stuff. He's taken, military in American and in England, and really fix these people up. The thing is, I did a speech, kind of an intro speech for a documentary on PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just they were interviewing people, but it's not just physical trauma; it's emotional trauma
Yeah.
that can affect you. Like this fireman, and one was a fireman in 9/11, and he saw 350 of his fellow comrades dead, and he was never the same and was very suicidal. He was shaking. His life was over, and he saw a doctor, and they did. Checked his hormone levels, blood work, balanced a few things, and did some other things. And this guy is living an incredible life. I mean, it's obvious the football players, the boxers, the anybody has physical contact to the brain it'll affect that. But man, there was this one Navy woman in the Navy who had been raped a couple of times and was would give her help, and she was emotionally a mess, and she was suicidal. They saved her life by dealing with it with hormone treatments, seeing where your blood levels are, and say, "Oh wow, man, you're way down here. We need to give you something," and it might be even just supplements. Anyway, you brought that up. I just think that's some serious stuff that not enough people are talking about.
Yeah, because you know, mine. I'm kind of a weird case. I had 2 strokes 5 years ago.
Oh wow.
And that's actually where the name of this podcast comes from. I was on the ambulance when I had the second one. I didn't know about the first one, but it gave me a
Wow.
really bad stutter. It just all kind of ticks that came with it.
Wow.
And sitting at home for 4 months, not being allowed to work, just I've worked my whole adult life, and now I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs. I've got a friend who loves to hunt. He's got land, but he doesn't like wild game. So if he kills something, he gives it to somebody that needs it. And
Yeah.
he would call me and my friend, he'd say, "Hey, I've got a hog or I've got a deer, y'all come get it." And my
Oh
buddy,
wow.
my buddy Blake, I've known him for 40 years. He's definitely a ride or die. And
Yeah.
he'd take me, we'd go get it, and we'd come back to my house and we would clean it and quarter it and everything. And I wasn't going to pay for processing because one, I was out of work, and two, I'm
Hmm.
cheap. And I decided, well, we got to do more than just cut hams and hamburger out of this thing. So I started making different sausages. I do a venison
Oh
pastrami
cool.
that is amazing.
Whoa. I
And
love it.
doing that for 4 months helped to center me and helped me heal and make it where I can get back out on the ambulance again. And That's
Oh,
why I
that's
call this
great.
smoked meat.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Well, I think it's very, very important, and I tell people this. The way I embraced this whole, pandemic and this, uh, this difficult time is to stay busy, man. You make a list of things to do. You cannot sit and be complacent because for me, just being busy, I feel rewarded by doing something every day.
yeah,
Doing something, and you keep moving forward, and it's not the same for me. Look, I lost a whole year, like I said, of touring and speaking. I'm not performing like I used to, but thank God I have recording sessions, and my that reminds me, my book Sex Drums Rock and Roll. They started an audio version of it. I'm like, wait a minute, dude, I'm supposed to be doing that. Because so if I that that's another thing, and getting my virtual speaking done out of my studio with lights and audio. I mean, it's so much on my list. It's unbelievable. I'm crazy busy, but this is what I need to do to get through this. Otherwise, you'll go crazy.
yeah.
COVID crazy.
Yes, I'm waiting to see some of the baby names that come out of this quarantine.
Oh
There's
yeah, yeah,
gonna have
yeah.
my favorite one that we've made up is Karantane.
Oh my
There's going to be
yeah.
at least one kid out there named that, and it's hilarious.
Oh my God,
Oh,
that's great.
oh yeah. Well, man,
Wow.
Kenny, I tell you, I could talk to you anytime, all day, man. But I know you probably got a lot of stuff going on. You know, you're welcome on here anytime. All you got to do is
Well,
call and say, "Hey, Fat Boy, I want to talk," and we'll hit the button.
or you can call me too. Yeah, I got I got some things I got to get to in about a half hour. But man, awesome talking to you, man. Awesome, very genuine. It's been a great conversation, man. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. And like I say, man, I'm gonna get people to check out your book, and we're gonna get this thing going.
All right, buddy. All right, thank you so much.